What's up, bro? It's your boy Mike Muse. Welcome to the conversation of the Mike Muse Show. I am really excited to be in conversation with my next guest. And I gotta be honest with you, I never met this guy before, but what I've been reading about him and seeing his films, man, he seems like he is the one to watch, also the one to listen to. Justin Rhodes has produced everyone from Dr. Dre to Rick Ross, everything in between. He is now, I wouldn't even say now, he's been doing content creation, but he now is here to talk about, I should say, his new film that he has out called A Wonderful Plight. He says it's a little bit of a Christmas Carol with a mix of music, maybe, or something. And I found it to be super interesting. But listen, he's the one to ask the questions, and now we're going to get all the answers. Ladies and gentlemen, no other than Justin Rhodes. What's happening, sir?
It's good. Thank you for having me, my brother. Appreciate you.
No problem. Did I get that tagline right? I knew you said it's a Christmas Carol and something else.
Yeah. It's I've been on this press run. I've been saying a lot, but I think it's a Christmas Carol kind of meets Hamilton in essence. You know what I mean? Something like that. Like not to define it, but I think that kind of gives people an idea of where we're going with it. It's a hip Christmas Carol, pretty much.
I love it. Now, talk to us why one, based upon you can recover capture the film a lot better than I can, but it's this really interesting narrative on taking us through a journey of a white individual, a young man, going through the complexities in race dynamics. I felt like it's about learning and discovering and being uncomfortable in the comfort and being comfortable in the uncomfortability. Talk to us a little bit about one general, I'm sure you can do a better synopsis than I could, but why the choice through the lens of this white man through these different narratives?
I think for me, because like I've been saying, racism is a problem that I think Black people are tasked with ending, even though we didn't create it. A lot of times we're tasked with how are we going to end something that we never even started. So I just thought about it when I kind of thought about the idea. It's almost like Samuel Jackson on The Time to Kill. If you recall that movie, he they were wondering why he went with the white lawyer instead of the black lawyer. It was almost like he needed the vehicle to really communicate it and for people to see it through that lens. So a lot of times, for our allies or people that really want to help, sometimes they just don't know what they just don't understand. In some ways, some people purposely don't want to understand, but it's a few people that just maybe don't have the information, because even us as Black people, the information has been destroyed and hidden from us as well. So it's just more like really bringing them to that world and kind of just taking them from the past, present, and future of wokeness, so they can kind of have those aha moments like, oh, my privilege allowed me to overlook this, but now that you're putting it in my face, now I understand kind of what you've gone through and what your people are going through, et cetera. So we needed, that lens of the white American in this country to kind of really deliver the message, to make it seem as if we really were taking them through the journey. Anybody watching, they can relate to that person. So the comments that we get from a lot of white Americans is like, hey man, I really felt like I was going through the journey and I really have this understanding. And the only reason they have that understanding is because we had the, Scott, played by Brian Shorkey, to deliver that message.
Just one, where do you fall on this next positioning? I'm curious, and I'm wondering, depending on how you answer, was it a solve for that? There's this narrative on social media, and my audience knows that I hate Twitter. I think that Twitter isn't a real conversation. I think that Twitter isn't really what's happening on the ground, truly. I think Twitter is just a series of people retweeting and retweeting, retweeting something they find funny, and we enjoy being entertained, and we love a good clapback. But I also think that it's dangerous. But you're not here to talk about the dangers of Twitter and social conversation, how it's helping to erode our democracy and our intellect and critical thinking. Sorry, I
I
got the
do agree, though.
soapbox there.
I can't say I agree.
Yeah, yeah. There is this narrative out there that says that Black people are tired of teaching, they're tired of explaining to white people what's going on. Where do you fall with that? And does this film serve to do that? Like, do you feel that Black people still should teach, need to teach? Do you feel like white people should learn on their own? Or do you feel that there is still some responsibility,
Man,
controversial
that's a
word
great
now,
question.
in order to lead, or should just Black people just stop talking about
Man, that's a great question, because I know from the film's lens, it seems as if you know, that was the whole purpose, is if it's on us to, you know, kind of teach. It's not, it was almost like tongue in cheek. Um, and that's why I did it like that, because I do feel that, you know, the information in a sense, in a real life sense, is out there for, you know, us to research and learn. It's out there for people to research and learn if they really want to, you know, but you know, a lot of times people benefit from that. But through the movies lens, I do think it's a balance, because I don't, like I say, I don't think Black people should be tasked with curing something that they didn't create, which is racism. But at the same time, this film kind of does direct itself towards the few, in my opinion, the few people and allies that really are just in the dark. Because I think most people choose to be in the dark and they want to be there. They want to benefit from their privilege. But even when we created this film, people were like, "Hey, man, you may not want to do this because you're going to upset these people. You're going to do this." And this ultimately was a film that I made for us. You know, in essence, I was just like, "Hey, this is what I want to do. I'm not trying to conform to please anybody." But I do think the film, who is connected with it, are people who really, you know what I'm saying, long for the knowledge, and now we're delivering it. So I'm not saying it's our whole ability to change people's minds, because my thing is most people's minds are not going to be changed, you know what I mean? And it's not, we're not tasked to do that. But I do think whoever those select few people are that really you could tell that maybe really want the information, that truly want to be allies, it doesn't hurt, and it actually can benefit us if we, you know, I think by delivering our messages wholeheartedly and strongly, those people will attract to us, you know what I mean? So basically I think it's kind of, I'm not all the way sold on either way, but like I say, in a real life sense, I don't think Black people should just be tasked with being the bearer of curing racism. But in those spots where we can, you know, can put people on game that want to be put on game, we definitely should accept those.
I'm curious. You said that some people were, hesitant. I mean, some people were telling you should be more mindful about putting certain scenes or narratives in. What did they think that was a little bit too controversial for this film or for society to handle?
Man, it's I think more when I first was creating it, it was the lack of some inclusions. Because you know, we did have inclusions with white people in the film, but it was just some of the man, it really was, even as the film developed, I don't think it was just too much controversy, but as we were developing it, it was always the, hey, make sure, you know, it was some people, hey, make sure we don't do this and make sure we don't do that. And I was like, nah, we're going to do this the way we're going to do it. So it wasn't even just the film itself, it was in creating it, because I think as creators in Hollywood, up and coming creators and creators in general, you always come to a crossroads where people want to inject certain things in there to appease, you know what I'm saying, the white populace, you know, like,
Yeah.
hey, well, we can't do this because, oh, we can't do this, but let's make sure to throw a little bit of this. Let's make sure to take off a little bit of this in the joke, or whatever it may be. I think it was a little caution and hesitancy with some of the things just to make sure that we were super inclusive. But I don't think that being non-inclusive is being racist, because so many other races and groups, they get to have their own thing. So I was like, with this movie, of course, we want to hit messaging and we want to reach certain people, but it still can be our thing and we still can do it our way without having to make sure that it appeases and pleases everybody.
For sure. Now you got me thinking about different, areas of nuance. You talk about inclusion. You guys have included so many different types of, yeah, I guess, categories of challenges that face Black America. One I saw, in there is gentrification and a bunch of other things. What area did you really say we got to take our time to do it right? Because there's
Mhm.
some categories that are more easier to explain than others, right? And then there are some that has so much nuance to it. Like, which one did you say, all right, we got to pause production here. We need to make sure either redo this or be more thoughtful and mindful about the approach.
Man, great question. The film we shot, it wasn't, I think once we had our idea for it, we really went and moved. But because we shot the film in, like, you know, on at indie film pace. We shot it in like 5.5 days. So that wasn't a lot of room. And I wrote it with no rewrites in about a week. So once we got to it, stuff went kind of fast. So it's hard to say where we really had to just slow down as far as in the production of it. But what I will say, when you go song based, some of the things we slowed down, like the both them John song. I really wanted that to be that was one of the ones where I didn't want it to go too deep. I wanted to pay a nice ode to what happened from his perspective, speak his story, but I also didn't want to pimp out his family's trauma as much as I could. That's why we didn't show him laying on the floor or do anything like that. We made it, people kind of know the deal, but I think that one was, I was real touchy on it. I even wrote that one on the spot when we were filming, and I just wanted it to be light but real. So that's one of the ones where I think we did kind of pause and was like, I didn't want that to be too heavy. I wanted to tell the story, but I didn't want to make it trauma porn, or like if both of them or his family saw it, I wanted to be something where they could, acknowledge, but it wouldn't, super reopen wounds. So that's that one. Um, when you think about the song Lay Low, it was the one where I was kind of depicting the truth about a lot of our Black leaders that have almost, anytime you get close to making a difference, how those difference makers are took out. Whether it's, it could be from whatever you feel about how Bob Marley passed, to Fred Hampton, to Martin Luther King, to Malcolm X. On that one, I wanted to be real direct and real, because I think, the closer, a lot of times they say pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. But even if you go back to Black Wall Street and things of that nature, when you get close to doing what they tell us to do, you can get, took out. So it was kind of some, potential hesitancy with that one, but at the same time, we end up, going deep and layered on that one. I think one of the deepest ones that hit home for me, because being from Dallas and just seeing some of the areas that are gentrified, I wanted to be real thorough on that one and tell it as almost like Schoolhouse Rock for adults, right? Because I wanted it to be simple, but I did want that one to be thorough, and just like how, us not owning things and selling our things for dirt cheap. That's kind of like, it's this cycle that is repeating itself right now. And I wanted people to really understand. I wanted Black people to understand what we're doing, but I wanted white people to really understand what takes place. So, because a lot of times, some people, they just look at it, oh, it's a good business move, is this, is that, but it's really, man, it's oppression in business form is what gentrification is. So that's kind of those were the ones I think where specifically the Botham one too, because I wanted to pay homage to him in the right ways, where we kind of had to hit it, be real precise in how we delivered the messaging.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned something about trauma porn. I'm curious about your take on, as a content creator. There's been some shows, movies that have really leaned in to the trauma that Black Americans are facing, right? There is always this idea of film and content supposed to be used for escapism, but it's almost a time, it's like we're living in a day and age where the content is being created is so close to home, to the point where there seems to be no separation. What are your thoughts on how you see the direction? And do you see a lot of the stories are coming out now as, profiting off of the trauma of Black people? And these films and properties are actually also being made by Black people.
Yeah, it's very touchy, because I just feel like it's just in art, it's always that thin line that's so hard to tightrope, right? Because these stories are true, so we have to tell them. The slave stories happened. We've been through so much that it's, kind of, sometimes it can kind of be disingenuous to call it trauma porn, even though it is to me at the same time. It's like, it's what we actually been through. So, but I just feel that the creative aspect to me always has to outweigh it. It has to be done me as a creator, in a unique way that can tell a story that's been told in a different, in a unique way. And I think when you just kind of like just shove the same story, you know what I'm saying, in people's faces, then I think that's when it comes redundant. And I think redundancy kind of equates for me to trauma porn, when it's kind of like, oh, we've seen this and you've done it in the same way. So, because it's the truth. It's not that, but when you're redundant with it, and I think it's just a cool way to which you can tell a story, to not focused on what happened, but kind of gear towards the what do we do now? The where are we now? Like, how do we take this and move forward? I think if you present something and you don't have like a heroic manner to, because we know what happened, but it is escapism. So I think, why not tell the other version of the story of how we can overcome this situation? Yeah. So now, because when you have these visions on TV of how we can overcome it and do whatever. Like even with the Watchmen, whether I don't know if people liked it or not, but I liked it was racism, but it was a heroic turn. And I think once you start, putting the end on what we can do, into these artistic creations, then at that point it can give a different look, because we know we struggle, we know what we've been through, but especially creatively, I think the more people see these things and how we can win and what we can do, if you start putting that on the TV and the music and the people's eyes, then we don't have to continue to have the same story, because those stories will help us overcome it. So for me, just sometimes change the ending, especially in scripted series. Let's overcome this trauma and drama, at least in scripted form, so that we can start believing we can.
I like that. You are music is at your core. I just heard you reference a few minutes ago about the music in terms of helping to drive some of those sensitive moments of subject material. Mm-hmm. What came first with this project for A Wonderful Plight? Did the music come first? Did the writing come first with the film? The chicken or egg? Like what's happening with that?
Since this is such a like a music driven film, to the core of it, it's like it was music first. Like I had a list of songs that attacked these issues, and then when people saw the visuals, they was like, "Oh man, I like this." They was like, "It's like Sesame Street for adults or Schoolhouse Rock for adults." So when in 2019 we were at the American Black Film Festival and we were at the awards, and I was just like, "Man, I want to come back and really blow their minds with something that I think they've never seen before," because they like the visual for a song I did, Make It Take It, which was why we were at the film festival. But I just felt that if we built a whole movie around the music that they like so much, it would be groundbreaking. And almost 2 years later to the date, it was. So the music came first, and I connected stories in the script and action things that would, hit another point, and then it would be music related. And so we're working on the second one, and I think that music first then script aspect is kind of the way I'm gonna attack that one too.
That's amazing. I love, everyone has their formula, and everyone has their ism and their thing. And it sounds like just a Rhodes, you have your formula. I'm a big fan of music. Music is the foundation of my work. I think music drives so much of our culture, our thought process, our social construct. And so thank you for the gift of being a creative, right? Not just of a filmmaker or a music producer, but just as a creative. And I think creatives are helping to moderate our discourse. To me, when I think about moderating discourse, street art is graffiti is one of the best moderators of our social discourse, I believe, of our time that we're in right now. So thank you for adding to the culture. Thank you for driving the culture. And thank you for being willing to still teach.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you for, discussing the film and keeping the conversations going.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is Justin Rhodes, a fantastic content creator. I don't want to say just filmmaker or a music producer, just a fantastic creative and content creator. Please go check out his film, A Miracle Plight. It is on video on demand and everywhere you can find great films. Until next time, peace.